even after spending hundreds of hours. These are the 5 benefits that are easy to miss in Genshin Impact. When you first reach Adventure Rank 45, a whole new world of artifact farming opens up, since you're basically ready to start farming those awesome 5-star artifacts, but after doing a couple of runs, you realize there are 2 things that essentially define this quest for the perfect artifact. The first one is of course the random nature of obtaining the artifact that you truly want and need, and the other one is the fate of an artifact which does not satisfy you and eventually ends up as experience points for other artifacts. But it also just so happens that a lot of times, you will simply settle with what you already have, since trying to obtain something that's not perfect or up to your liking is still better than no artifact at all. And you will quickly realize that leveling these little pieces of equipment actually costs a lot, but not in terms of Mora, and instead it's the actual artifacts that you will be missing out on. And even if sometimes selling those 1 or 2 star artifacts from your bag can be beneficial, one good way that actually is resin efficient, that helps you out with leveling up artifacts, are the artifact shops you can find in the world. There's a total of 3 artifact shops that you can clear out once per week, after which their stock refreshes and you can repeat the routine. You can find one in Mondstadt, which is near the city's tavern, while the next one can be found at this specific location in Liyue City. Finally, the last shop is a bit more tricky and it requires to interact with it during the in-game hours from 22:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's been already proven that buying out these artifacts, even if they cost more to acquire, is an efficient way of using up your resin indirectly, since most of the endgame players stop using world exploration as means of acquiring Mora and depend on leylines and the occasional event or commission awards instead. So if you want to slightly boost your artifact leveling in exchange for a routine that will require you to visit the 3 shops weekly, you can expect to save up some of the resin you can instead use on the other things or even farm up more artifacts as well. It's not the most popular or fun subject, but using food is definitely a big part of many players, especially if you have acquired the special food gadget, which can hold 1 health restoration and 1 revive dish at a time. And obviously, making dishes for the sake of mastering them and unlocking the achievement is all fun and good, but once you've identified your strongest dishes you like to use in combat, for example, the Jade Parcels or Adeptus Temptation, you're pretty much covered and don't need to bother thinking about it too much. But with the introduction of food gadget, it's become very handy and easy to consume a lot of the health restoration dishes. And one common thing that probably comes up but gets ignored is the question of which health and revive dishes are easiest to make in big quantities, since there's more elaborate food items that take far too many ingredients for essentially the same effect, and it only makes sense to narrow down to the ones that are beneficial value-wise. And for the revival dish, it's an easy answer, and it's the fried egg, which only takes a single egg to make, and you can find this resource in so many places, with one of the most popular spots being the Liyue mountaintops you can visit. Now for food items, it's a bit different, and there's actually a couple of dishes, with the first one being the Northern Apple Stew, which includes all the common ingredients, and if you're consistent with your expeditions, you can get plenty enough of meat as well. Alternatively, there's a pretty easy spot to farm chilled meat inside Dragon Spine, which can then be processed into meat afterwards, and on the bright side, you get to see the Boar King turn into a big cloud of chilled meat as well. But for something even easier, if you're the sort of person who picks up everything they see, you should have an access to Sweet Madames, which also work really well for the food gadget. So in short, there's a couple of very beneficial food items you can take advantage of without the need to obtain some obscure items to cook them, and you won't have to feel the intimidation of an empty statue of the 7. With the introduction of City Reputation, there's a certain period when you will spend some time each week going through the motions of fulfilling those generic requests from citizens and hunting down your bounties. Now once you achieve the final ranks of each city, the game will actually stop reminding you about the next available bounties and requests on every new following week, despite the fact you can still complete them even if you're no longer able to raise the reputation levels. And that's actually the equivalent of 50 resin you would have otherwise spent on doing 2.5 more ley lines that could get ignored just because the game no longer shows you the notification when you open up your map. So keep this in mind once you're done with your city reputation leveling, and if you're looking for that extra pocket money, it won't hurt to do this once in a week. Also, let's not forget you're still able to complete the 2 battle pass missions that come with the reputation system. And for more of these easy to miss benefits, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. The never-ending gameplay loop of Genshin Impact currently revolves around raising new characters whenever you get the chance to do so, and with the limited amount of resin you're granted with each day, realistically speaking, it can take weeks if not months to get one character going. But the beauty of the game is that the more time you spend playing it, the less resources you actually need to get your characters prepared. And this doesn't involve you switching around the artifacts between characters and leaving some of them stranded naked while the other one is enjoying the benefits. And the actual trick to this is by taking a look at the overall state of the game. Currently, the only place that really puts on a strain on your builds and team compositions is the Spiral Abyss, and there's a lot of factors that go in when clearing these floors, especially when you start focusing on getting 3 stars on every room. But just to make a character usable, especially if they're not going to be your main damage dealer, this can actually be achieved with less resources than you would otherwise like to believe. And the resources in this case are of course the artifacts, which can get a little daunting once you become obsessed with obtaining something that's very powerful. But if you want to get a new character up and running, assuming you have the character, weapon, and talents raised to their optimal levels, the remaining part is the artifact, and the most common way everyone builds a character is a damage support, with a few cases being a healer or actual support, which are usually even cheaper to achieve. But for a damage support character, thanks to the addition of the newest Dragonspine domain, you now basically have access to every single artifact 2 set that features a damage bonus for one of the elements, which you can take advantage of by combining it together with a Gladiator 2 set bonus, and ending up with an easy to achieve double set bonus to boost your damage without too much consideration put into optimizing your character. What this basically does is at least it makes your character usable from the get-go, and to make things even cheaper, you should only focus on obtaining the relevant main stats without paying too much attention to substats, and even better, since the game is all about damage, unless you really need it, you can just skip on upgrading the flower artifact, since it might give those substats you really want, but in the end, if your goal is to make a character usable as fast as possible, sacrificing some of the less essential parts of a build can let you enjoy playing with the character sooner. Just keep in mind this is best to be used for those who are just entering the end game and want a usable team without overspending their resin, or if you're someone who wants to have a lot of characters at their disposal. It's obviously not going to be performing at their max potential, but then again, if you just want to have a decent damage and not stress too much about artifact farming, you can really just rely on the artifact main stats and their 2 set bonuses to get a nice performance going. And we've already seen that MiHoYo is taking a notice at the slow pace of character building, since during the Hypostasis event, the rewards weren't the greatest, and getting to the high score really just meant more bragging rights for the players, while at the same time, this event gave enough opportunities even for those who had weaker characters to gather most of the rewards. There is no decent way to test your character's performance without actually engaging some enemies, and if you enjoy building and evaluating their performance, the best option to do so is by going to the Spiral Abyss and fighting on one of the floors that don't provide benefits in any offensive way, so you can avoid screwing the results. And it's a bit surprising, since we literally have a commission where Ellen, a Favonius knight in training, requests you to beat up some dummies for her, but these dummies are nowhere to be found once the commission is over, and your only option to quickly evaluate the change in your character's performance would be by making a quick visit to the Spiral Abyss. Just keep in mind that if you leave the floor and return to it after making any adjustments to your characters, the changes will actually not take into effect unless you completely abandon the run and start the floor again by selecting which characters to send out. Let us know in the comments what other sneaky benefits you have discovered in the game, and make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting the bell notification on and gently pressing the like button. Also, for more useful news and interesting topics, make sure to follow Twitter handle found in the description box below. Thank you for watching us.